You woke up this morning. You made your coffee or your tea. Maybe you sat by the window for a few minutes before the day started. You are not in pain. You are not in a hospital. You are managing. And for the most part, you feel like yourself. That is not a small thing. That is everything. But here is what nobody has ever sat down and told you directly. And I mean a real conversation, not a pamphlet in a waiting room, not a rushed 3-minute appointment where the doctor is already thinking about the next patient. There are 5 things that happen quietly in the body after 60. Not dramatic things, not emergencies, quiet shifts. And the way you respond to those shifts, through 5 specific daily habits, determines whether the next 10 years of your life feel like an extension of who you are or a slow surrender of everything that makes life worth living. My name is Dr. Joseph Collins. I am a medical health educator, and I've spent years helping adults over 60 understand what is actually happening inside their bodies, not in the language of textbooks, but in plain, honest conversation. The kind of conversation you deserve and rarely get. What I'm about to share is not opinion. It is built on documented research and clinical evidence. And I want to be direct with you before we begin. This is not personal medical advice for your individual situation. Everybody is different, and your doctor is your partner in your health decisions. What this is the information that allows you to walk into that room prepared, informed, asking the right questions. Because here is something that has always troubled me. The medical system is extraordinary at responding to emergencies. It is far less good at sitting down with a 64-year-old woman who feels mostly fine and saying, here is what to watch for, here is what to build into your day, and here is why it matters more right now than it ever has before. That conversation almost never happens, and the absence of it costs people years of quality life that they did not have to lose. So today, we are having that conversation. I'm going to walk you through 5 daily habits that the research consistently shows are among the most protective things a person over 60 can do for their long-term health. Not supplements, not expensive interventions, habits, things built into how you move through the day. And I want to tell you something before we get into the first one. Habit number 3 is the one that surprises people most. Not because it is complicated, it is genuinely simple. But because almost no one in this age group is doing it consistently, and the consequences of skipping it accumulate so gradually that most people don't connect the dots until something has already gone wrong. And habit number 5, I saved this one deliberately for the end, because it is the one that most directly protects your independence, your ability to live on your terms, in your own home, making your own decisions. And it is the one that gets the least attention in any health conversation I have ever seen aimed at adults your age. So stay with me through all 5. By the end of this video, you will have something specific, something you can start tomorrow morning. Now, before we get into habit number 1, I need you to understand one thing, because without it, nothing I am about to share will carry the weight it deserves. After 60, the body does not break down all at once, it drifts. Small systems begin operating at reduced capacity. Circulation slows slightly. Muscle responds differently to inactivity. Sleep architecture changes in ways that affect memory, mood, and immune function. None of this announces itself loudly. It happens in the background across months and years, until one day a person notices they are not quite who they were, and cannot identify the moment it changed. The medical community calls these changes physiological aging. What that phrase does not capture is this. Many of the most significant of these changes are modifiable, not reversible in every case, but genuinely, meaningfully modifiable through consistent daily behaviour. That is not hope. That is documented biology. The 5 habits I am about to walk you through target 5 of the most modifiable processes that are actively shifting in your body right now. Each one addresses a specific vulnerability that develops after 60. Each one has research behind it showing real outcomes in real people your age. And each one is something you can do without a prescription, without a procedure, and without upending your life. Let me start with the first one. Because it is the habit most people dismiss as too simple to matter. And that dismissal, I've come to believe, is one of the most quietly expensive mistakes a person over 60 can make. Habit number 1. And we are going to go deep on this one, because the details matter more than the headline. Habit number 1, walking. But not the way you think. Not a stroll. Not parking farther from the entrance and counting that. a deliberate daily walk of at least 20 minutes, at a pace where you can still hold a conversation, but you are aware that your body is working. Here is why this matters more after 60 than at any other point in your life. Cardiovascular research published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology followed adults over 60 across multiple years and found that consistent moderate walking reduced the risk of cardiovascular events, heart attacks, strokes, more reliably than several commonly prescribed medications. Not as a replacement for medication in people who need it, but as an independent protective factor that medication alone cannot replicate. That finding rarely makes it into a 15-minute annual appointment. But here is the part that most people do not know. The benefit is not primarily about your heart, it is about your brain. Walking at a moderate pace increases cerebral blood flow, the movement of oxygen-rich blood through the small vessels of the brain. After 60, those vessels become more vulnerable to narrowing, to reduced circulation, to the kind of gradual oxygen reduction that underlies early cognitive decline. A daily walk does not reverse that process, but consistent, documented evidence shows it meaningfully slows it. There is also this. Walking outdoors, specifically in morning light, within the first 2 hours after you wake, has a direct effect on your body's circadian rhythm, which governs sleep quality, cortisol regulation, and immune response. After 60, circadian rhythm becomes less stable. Morning light exposure is one of the few free immediate tools available to anchor it. 20 minutes. Outside. Before 10 in the morning. That is habit number 1. Habit number 2, eating enough protein, and understanding why most people your age are not. This one is not about dieting. It is not about weight. It is about a process called sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle mass that begins accelerating after the age of 60 and continues unless it is specifically and deliberately countered. Muscle is not vanity. After 60, muscle is the primary physical system that protects you from falls, fractures, loss of mobility, and loss of independence. A 2022 analysis in the journal Nutrients reviewed data from adults over 65 across multiple countries and found that the majority were consuming significantly less protein than the amount required to maintain muscle mass. Not because they were eating poorly by traditional standards, but because the recommended daily amounts most people learned decades ago are now understood to be too low for older adults. The updated clinical guidance from multiple geriatric nutrition bodies now recommends between 1.2 and 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for adults over 60, roughly double what most people this age are actually consuming. The practical version, at every meal, your plate should include a deliberate protein source: eggs, fish, chicken, legumes, Greek yogurt. Not as a side element, as the anchor of the meal. This is not complicated, but it requires intention, because appetite often decreases after 60 due to hormonal and metabolic shifts, and the meals that feel satisfying are frequently carbohydrate heavy and protein light without the person realizing it. The consequence of consistent under-eating protein over years is not dramatic. It is the slow erosion of strength, balance, and physical confidence that most people attribute simply to getting older, when in fact it is correctable. Habit number 3, strength training twice a week. And this is the one I told you would surprise you. Not because strength training is unknown, because of what it actually does inside the body after 60 that has nothing to do with appearance or athletic performance. After 60, the body's insulin sensitivity decreases. This means glucose, the sugar circulating in your blood after you eat, is processed less efficiently by your cells. The result over time is elevated blood sugar, increased inflammation, and a significantly higher risk of type 2 diabetes, even in people who eat reasonably well and are not overweight. Skeletal muscle is the body's single largest consumer of blood glucose. When you contract muscle through resistance exercise, bodyweight squats, resistance bands, light dumbbells, even chair-based exercises, you activate glucose uptake in those muscle cells independent of insulin. The muscle pulls the sugar out of the bloodstream directly. This is a documented physiological process that works regardless of age. 2 sessions per week of 20 to 30 minutes of resistance exercise has been shown in multiple clinical studies to reduce fasting blood glucose, lower inflammatory markers, and meaningfully improve balance, which directly reduces fall risk. The research on fall prevention is worth pausing on. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65 in the United States. Not dramatic accidents. Falls, from losing balance during ordinary daily movement. And strength training, not medication, not a scan, not a procedure, is among the most protective interventions the evidence shows for preventing them. You do not need a gym, you do not need equipment, you need 20 minutes, twice a week, and the knowledge that you are doing something with direct, measurable impact on your body's most critical systems. Habit number 4, monitoring your blood pressure at home. Consistently, not just at your annual appointment, at home, with a validated cuff that costs less than $40. At the same time each morning, before you eat or drink anything, after 5 minutes of sitting quietly. Here is why the doctor's office reading is not enough. A condition called white coat hypertension, elevated blood pressure triggered by the stress of a clinical environment, affects a documented 30 to 40% of patients whose blood pressure reads normal at home but elevated at appointments. The inverse is also real and more dangerous. Masked hypertension, where readings appear normal in the clinical setting but are consistently elevated at home, affects a significant portion of adults over 60 and is associated with significantly higher rates of stroke and heart disease than even consistently high readings that are being treated. You cannot know which category you fall into without home readings. Your doctor cannot know either, because they only see you for minutes at a time, under conditions that do not reflect your daily life. 2 readings each morning. Log them. Bring the log to your next appointment. That log tells a story that a single clinical measurement never can. Habit number 5, protecting your sleep. And understanding what is actually being lost when you don't. This is the one I promised you. The habit most directly connected to your independence, your cognitive sharpness, and your ability to remain fully yourself for the years ahead. And it is the one that gets the least serious attention in health conversations aimed at adults your age. Here is what is happening. After 60, the architecture of sleep changes in ways that are documented, measurable, and profoundly consequential. The deep sleep stages, specifically what researchers call slow-wave sleep, begin to shorten. These are the stages where the brain does its most critical maintenance work, where memory is consolidated, where the glymphatic system and the brain's internal waste clearance mechanism flushes out the metabolic byproducts that accumulate during waking hours. One of those byproducts is amyloid beta, the protein that accumulates in the brains of people who develop Alzheimer's disease. A landmark study published in the journal Science found that even a single night of disrupted sleep measurably increased amyloid beta levels in the brain. Not across years of poor sleep. One night. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to reframe something you may have been dismissing. Many adults over 60 accept disrupted, shortened, or poor quality sleep as an inevitable feature of aging, something to manage with an extra cup of coffee, or simply endure. The research does not support that acceptance. Poor sleep after 60 is not a minor inconvenience. It is one of the most modifiable risk factors for cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, immune dysfunction, and depression that exist. And unlike most risk factors, it responds directly and quickly to behavioural intervention. So here is what the evidence actually supports for protecting sleep quality after 60. First, consistent timing. Going to bed and waking at the same time every day, including weekends, anchors your circadian rhythm in a way that nothing else replicates. Variability of even 90 minutes in your sleep and wake times has been shown to measurably reduce deep sleep duration and next-day cognitive performance in adults over 60. Second, temperature. Core body temperature must drop to initiate and maintain deep sleep. After 60, the body's thermoregulatory system becomes less efficient at driving this temperature drop independently. A cooler sleeping environment, between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, directly supports the physiological process your body is trying to complete. This is not a comfort preference, it is biology. Third, the evening light environment. Blue spectrum light from screens, phones, tablets, televisions, suppresses melatonin production. After 60, melatonin production is already reduced compared to younger adults. Compressing it further through screen exposure in the 90 minutes before sleep measurably delays sleep onset and reduces the amount of slow-wave sleep achieved. Dimming your environment and reducing screen exposure before bed is not wellness advice. It is protecting a system your brain depends on every single night. These are not complicated changes. They require no prescription and no procedure, but they require consistency and the understanding that sleep is not rest. Sleep is maintenance. And after 60, that maintenance is doing some of the most important work of your life. Now let me bring all 5 together. Because individually, each of these habits has value. Together they form something more significant. A 20-minute morning walk anchors your circadian rhythm and protects cerebral blood flow. Deliberate protein at every meal preserves the muscle that keeps you upright, mobile, and independent. 2 sessions of resistance training per week stabilizes your blood sugar and reduces your fall risk. Daily home blood pressure monitoring gives you and your doctor a real picture of your cardiovascular health instead of a snapshot taken under clinical stress. And consistent protected sleep allows your brain to clear, consolidate, and maintain itself through every night. These 5 habits work together. Each one supports the others. And the research behind them is not emerging or experimental. It is settled, replicated, and consistently under-delivered to the people who need it most. Which brings me to something I want to say directly. You are not going to hear most of this in a standard appointment. Not because your doctor does not care, most doctors genuinely do, but because the system is not designed for the kind of conversation that takes the time to explain why a daily walk matters at the cellular level, or why your sleep quality after 60 is connected to your cognitive health 10 years from now. That conversation requires time the system does not give. This is why I make these videos, to give you the picture that the appointment rarely provides. There is one question I want to leave you with, and I want you to write it down or save it in your phone and bring it to your next appointment. Given where I am right now, which of these 5 areas, movement, nutrition, strength, blood pressure, or sleep, should we be paying the closest attention to in my specific situation? That question takes the conversation from a general checklist to something built around your body. A good physician will welcome it. The answer will tell you exactly where to direct your energy first. Before you close this video, if there is someone in your life who is over 60 and moving through their days without this information, share this with them, not to alarm them, because what they do not know is costing them something they cannot get back, and you have the ability to change that for them right now. If this gave you something useful, something you will actually carry into tomorrow morning, subscribe to this channel. Every video I make is built on the same foundation: documented research, plain language, and genuine respect for your ability to make informed decisions about your own health. I am Dr. Joseph Collins. Take good care of yourselves.